When you're thinking about hiring another employee, begin by setting aside that extra money that it would take to hire that person. I think that when we look at making the hire, we're expecting that return right now. And I like to look at it as we're investing in another human being who will bring that return eventually. But you have to ask yourself the question, am I willing to invest my time and my resources in this person? Let's have a plan for spending so we know where it's going. Even if you had a slower month, let's say you started this and you're on track, you have like 3 good months, maybe one of those is a little bit higher, you've been allocating by percentage, and then boom, a bad month comes. We all have it. I mean, that's dentistry. It's life. It's what happens. So you have that bad month, you still allocate by percentage, because guess what? If you're really following this system, you've got excess now built up in those accounts because you had a good month. So everything evens out. And when there is this temptation, and I'm going to just use the word, to steal from yourself, because that's what it is. It's not borrowing. We have no intention of paying it back. We're stealing from ourselves. And that becomes very apparent when you have profit first. Okay. So the beautiful thing is this, though, you start a profit account. Let's say it's 2% or even 1%. That's money you didn't have before that is sitting in an account. At the end of the quarter, the owner takes a profit distribution. Not all of it. There's a system to that and what you do with that money, but the owner gets rewarded for doing the right thing. And when I see doctors getting to that 5% mark, to that 10% mark now that they're setting aside for profit. And when you mentioned early on, increasing profit by 5 to 10%, I'm saying 5% of what you collect.
Yes.
Right? That you have to understand, that's a big number. If you're able to set aside, let's say 5%, and we've been able to really manage and cut expenses over here, and now we have that sitting in an account, it's huge. And no matter what the goal is, dentists have different goals. Some of them come to me and say, I just want to start paying down debt. Some come to me and they want to make a purchase of something. So we can set up whatever it is that their goal is and use these accounts to do it and still maintain, all your expenses over here and keep them under control.
Now, a big factor and question up, I think, in the minds of every business owner is making those decisions about adding technology, adding additional capacity, maybe enlarging in the business, the practice, the number of chairs, or adding associates or other providers, making these kinds of decisions and keeping it within the line of profit first. The system really allows for that proper decision making rather than a guesswork, correct?
Yes, it does, for sure. And I love how Mike Michalowicz teaches, when you're thinking about hiring another employee, begin by setting aside that extra money that it would take to hire that person. And I love to do this when I've worked with doctors who've hired an associate, and I'm like, you've got to save up that income for about 6 months of their pay. And if you can't do that right now, you're not in position to hire them, because the truth is, when they start, there's going to be a mentoring process, and there's going to be about 6 months until they get on their feet and they're up to speed where you need them to be. And they're probably even going to take away some, because you're going to giving that, some of your patients. So all these things we talk about, the reality, this is what I see happen. Let's just plan for that. So it's really setting up a plan for your money. I always say, nobody likes to hear the word budget, right? But we're all going to spend money, all of us. Let's have a plan for spending so we know where it's going.
It's really a plan for success, because going back to the associate model, how many of those opportunities, associateships to actually work, how many fail?
I know.
Not because either person was bad or the associate necessarily wasn't any good. As you said, there's a ramp up period. And if the senior doctor owner didn't plan for that and expected the associate from day one to come in and produce X,
Mhm.
And now financially, he or she is constrained and now feeling pressure. Where's that going to be released? Feeling disdain for that associate. When the associate is just having to learn and ramp up, you've got to prepare for these things. And so if you do it that way, it takes that pressure off, and you actually cannot feel the financial strain of, the productivity is actually down a little bit because I'm mentoring. I'm getting this person brought up to speed in the right way, not just throw them out there
Yeah.
and say, go to work.
I think it makes a mindset shift as well, that you're really investing in this
Mhm.
person. Sometimes I think that when we look at making the hire, we're expecting that return right now.
Yes.
And I like to look at it as we're investing in another human being who will bring that return eventually. But you have to ask yourself the question, am I willing to invest my time and my resources in this person? And that's a really great question when you're hiring someone. If you can't say yes to that, then maybe it's not the right fit.
Yep. Exactly. All right. Here's a question, Barb, that again, we have some people that are very debt averse. Once they pay down debt, it's like,
Mhm.
I don't want to go back into debt again. I totally can understand that flaw. It's kind of a Dave Ramsey, just pay off the debt
Mhm.
and live your life without any more debt. So there's one side where you can say, absolutely, that makes sense. There's another side where people would say, well, in order to grow or expand, it would
Mhm.
take me too long or X amount of months or maybe years to, save up the amount of capital it would take me to buy another location if I was just going to go
Mhm.
bigger, right? Or to buy that CBCT, it's just, that's going to be like 48 months down the road. So how do you help doctors in that situation balance between, do I utilize, debt today to make that investment, or should I save up and self-fund?
I think it's a combination. There's never one way that fits for everybody. And I think you have to look at, there is good debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt. And Dave Ramsey will even say that.
Mhm.
If you're investing in something that is building equity, you have good debt. Real estate a lot of times is good debt, right? Because you're growing it.
Right.
So expanding to another location and going into debt to do that, maybe you save up enough that you have a sizable down payment, let's say. That's fine. Same thing with equipment. What I like to do is look at, what is it that you're looking to purchase? Number one, does the dentist have the training that would allow them to use that piece of equipment to the highest capacity? Because sometimes I think the dentists get sucked into this, going to the CE course. And I write about this in the book, the CE junkie, right? You're just taking CE. I love to learn too. I love to go to school. But then it's like, oh, well, I need this equipment. I need this equipment. I need this to be able to do that. Well, are you really prepared and ready? Do you have systems in place? Is your team trained? Are you going to use that piece of equipment now? And, I can go back and look at countless clients who've said to me, I wish I hadn't made that purchase. So when you're ready and it is going to work well and your team is trained and you're trained, I'm all in. But I also think that you need to save enough money to make a sizable down payment and not borrow all of it. I think it's too easy to borrow the money because you never see the cash.
Right.
But when you save it up and you've got $40,000 in an account and you're going to pull that $40,000 out and put down on this piece of equipment, man, it makes you think twice.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
that's pulling that money out of your account.
Right.
Now it's no longer going to be sitting there. I think that's the difference. It's when you have to put your cold hard cash, that you worked hard to earn, then it makes you stop and think, do I really, really want this?
Good point.
So I say it's a combination. I'm not averse to debt, but
Mhm.
I am if it's used in the wrong way.
Right. Makes sense. So you mentioned that one's accountant can still continue to do the GAAP accounting, which is the way the government wants to see tax liability reported. but can also still institute profit first and there not be a conflict. So are you able to work with dentists who right now have an accountant they like that's doing their books for them and taxes, but they're not, quote, profit first? I mean, can that still work, or do they need to have someone who's also enjoined with profit first from a CPA accounting standpoint to make it all work?
I would say the majority of the time, I don't ask them to change their accountant unless there's a problem. And the majority of the time, there's not a problem. And I work with a lot of different accountants. And a lot of times the accountant is actually really happy that the client is getting some help in this area because they're not trained to do that part of it. You have to understand your CPA is trained to file your taxes and make sure that you're legal.
Yes.
They're not there to be your financial coach. And the way they handle their money personally probably isn't the way you handle yours. So it's just a misfit, I think, to expect that your accountant is going to do all those things for you, because they're not. It's not their job. So when someone comes to me, though, and they don't have a solid relationship with the CPA, maybe there's been a breakdown, and they ask me, or let's say the CPA, maybe for whatever reason decides they don't really want to support the profit first method. And then, we have to sit down and have a conversation. And there are profit first CPAs, and there are several of them. And obviously Drew Henricks, who wrote the book with me, he is one of those. So we can find a CPA who does support profit first, but I don't say like you have to, because you don't have to. I have many, many accountants who do just fine with this and are happy for their clients that they're finally seeing that profitability.
Yeah. Well, it makes their client happier too. They're not having those tough conversations like you owe X more in tax liability for this year. So it just takes that off the table. So everybody's happier.
Yes. I had someone say that to me the other day, that they said, their accountant said, "Now be prepared because, here's what I'm seeing." And she said to the accountant, "Don't worry, I have all that in the bank."
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's the best kind of client to have.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, Barb, where can people pick up the book, Profit First for Dentists?
Well, I would love for you to go to my website, profitfirstdentist.com. There are some resources there. They're free resources that go along with the book. And there's a link there that'll take you to make the purchase of the book too. But I would say go to the website. All you have to do is put your name and email in, and you can have those resources for free and then make the purchase. There's a link. Just click on the link, and that's profitfirstdentist.com. Just look at the tab at the top that says buy the book. Hit on that link there, and it'll all be there.
So when somebody buys the book or they're interested in looking further at Profit First, how do you contact you to see if there's potential fit in working with you and having you help implement rather than trying to do it yourself?
I like to just start with a call together, and really no pressure on that call. That the call is for you, the dentist. If you're listening to this and you just want to find out, just want some clarity about your practice. Yes, I do have a program called Profit First for Dentists, and I love helping dentists, but that call I don't have any intention of trying to sell you anything. I really just want to help you. So if you'd like to have that call with me, the easiest way to do that is just go to call.profitfirstdentist.com. And that's call.profitfirstdentist.com. You can get right on my schedule. Just find a time that works for you. We'll spend about an hour together. And literally that call is for you, the dentist.
Well, Barb, you're very easy to talk to. You make what we typically think very complex, you simplify it, which is the key in life, is to take the complex and simplify it and put it into categories, put it into frameworks, put it into disciplines, behaviors that allow us to enact it without going crazy, with all the other things we have to manage. When you're able to do that, it just, everything flows. And I think that's exactly what you do here with finances. And gosh, talk about taking the stress off of the ups and downs of the volatility, as we know happens in every business, for every business owner, without a system, in this case, to simplify it and get the habits in place. there's no better way to do it. So I really applaud what you've done. The book is fantastic. I think
Thank
people
you.
should grab the book and read through it if you liked what we talked about today, and you can get a little bit deeper into it. And then if you want some help implementing, Barb's there to at least give you some clarity on what that would look like for you, whether you do it yourself or she helps you. I mean, it's a very much of a benefit. So Barb, we thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure.
If you enjoyed watching or learning from this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more content. If you have a question about any of my content or this specific video, just please leave a comment down below. And as always, stay focused on your freedom. I'll see you next time.